Hello, my name is Max, and I am an alcoholic. I'm sober today only by the grace of God and the fellowship of the program, and I am a follower of Jesus. Welcome to Studio RC, an encouragement for your recovery and your faith. Last series, we got rooted as we prepped for our annual Recovery Church Movement Conference. We got rooted not just in ideas, not just in our emotions, but in something deeper, something that holds when life doesn't, when challenges come. And now we've completed our Rooted 2026 conference. The Rooted conference, it wasn't just a moment. It wasn't just an event. It was a turning point. It was hopefully challenging to some, encouraging to all. But here's the question. What happens after that moment, after the event? Because what God starts in a moment, He intends to develop over a lifetime, like planting a seed and letting it grow. So welcome to our new series, Rooted, the Aftermath. This is where we don't just revisit what was said, we wrestle with what it means through conversations with all of our main conference speakers and some additional interviews as well, reflections from the week, and honest dialogue about what it looks like to actually live this out. This is where roots go deeper. The conference may be over, but the work is not. Let's step into what comes next. Rooted, the aftermath, conversations, reflections, and what comes next. Let's check it out for this week's episode. Welcome to another episode of Studio RC here at the Recovery Church Movement Conference 2026 with the theme of Rooted. And so we're going to jump into another interview and we're going to talk with another one of our speakers. I have a new friend with me here, one who I hope to get to know even better through this experience. Why don't you introduce yourself to those watching and give a little bit of your background of who you are and what you do.
Sure. I'm Patti. I celebrate victory over alcohol and drug addiction, and I'm a firm believer in Jesus Christ. And I am one of the leaders at Sarasota South Recovery Church.
That's awesome. How long have you been a part of Sarasota South?
Yes, we opened just 5 months ago, and I was attending, and I still attend Sarasota North. And I've been going there for about 2 years.
That's awesome. That's great. I will be there on Tuesday night
Great.
At North. So looking forward to that opportunity. So you've been in Sarasota. Tell us a little bit about your background in recovery and faith and what that looks like.
Okay. So I celebrated 20 years of clean and sober time in November.
That's awesome.
I previously had 16 years of recovery, and I relapsed at 16 years of recovery. The difference is that this 20 years is with Jesus. The first 16 was not.
Yeah. It's one of the things I have found, and I don't know if this was your experience or not, that sometimes when people lose their sobriety, whatever that date is, that they almost don't feel like they're sober until they get back to that previous date. It could be 30 days, it could be 6 months, is that something that you struggled with, like, until I get past 16 years it won't really matter? Or was it so different because you had Jesus that the last one was good, but like this was so much better?
It's kind of both,
Okay.
actually. It's, I remember celebrating early years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it was like, it was very humbling.
Yeah, for sure.
To celebrate the earlier years, but there was also this sweet time of learning why I relapsed and knowing that it was what was missing. It was missing was the healing power of Jesus Christ. And as I fell in love with Jesus, the sobriety time meant less and less.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting, I was taught in regards to our time, I only share it if it can be helpful. And that celebrating anniversaries, if I only celebrate it for me, which who doesn't like to do, but if I celebrate it for me, it's selfish. I celebrate it so others sees that it works. And I think that appreciation, that's what time is for. So I rarely share my anniversary except in the month. Like I'm not I've been sober this many days, or that I just want to bring hope and tell people about God and God's love and about that component with Jesus. Now let me ask, do you attend AA, NA?
I attend AA.
Okay. Have you found hard, easy to share Jesus? Do you share Jesus in that setting? Do you share more in a general way? What does that look like?
I share more in a general way. I do talk about my involvement in the church and what that means for me. And then mostly I share one-on-one about Jesus, not necessarily in a meeting. I do talk about the difference in my life, and that when I share my testimony or my lead in an AA meeting, I do talk about having a Christian mentor and the difference that made in when I came back, and that was the piece that I was missing.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's interesting in the rooms. They're not always open. Yeah. Like they're pretty good with God. Jesus gets people a little skittish. I always joke, you want to see the power of Jesus' name, just bring it up at an AA meeting. The atmosphere literally changes. But I think that's attraction rather than promotion and I think that
definitely
people are attracted to people who've had the spiritual awakening, people who've been born again. I think that people are. I think a lot of times how we pick our sponsor. We see somebody and we're like, they have something I want. And they're not perfect, but there's something about them. And the truth is, it's usually we're attracted to that spiritual awakening.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
So that's a neat thing that God does in us and through us that other people sense. Which is,
yes, and I've had that experience too of girls asking me to sponsor them because I have something that they don't have.
They don't know what it is.
Yes, and then I end up inviting them to church, and there's some of my girls that do come to the church, and now they're coming to our recovery church, and it's wonderful.
Well, and I'm sure some probably resist initially. That can't be the difference. Oh wait, maybe that is the difference.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's watching that. Let's change gears for just a minute. We got some background. Well, I'll ask one more background question. You're in Florida. Is Florida where you grew up? How did you arrive in Florida? A lot of people say there are very few people who grew up in Florida. I don't know. I'm not from Florida. How did you get to this part of the world?
I grew up in New Jersey.
Woohoo!
And I lived in New Jersey.
Dare I say what exit?
No, I don't even know. Until I was about 35, and then I moved to Columbus, Ohio, and raised children in Columbus, Ohio, and I was there for 18 years. And then my kids were just about ready to graduate high school, and I was making some life changes, and I said, well, when you graduate, I'm going to move to Florida. And they both said, why wait?
Okay.
And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, let's go now. And I had one going into sophomore year and one going into junior year in high school. And neither one, they had been in one school district their whole lives. And they were like, let's go. And they were so happy we did. Nice.
Does that make you a Buckeyes fan?
It did.
It's hard not to being in that part of the world. Fair enough. And what part of New Jersey?
I grew up in Morris County.
Okay, I grew up in Morristown, which is the southern cousin, but I'm in Marlton now, and that's where our physical campus is, in Marlton, just near Cherry Hill and outside Philadelphia.
Good deal.
Love me some New Jersey. And so you made it down to Florida, and this is now when we'll change gears. You had a breakout session.
Yes.
Tell me about, what was your breakout session? What was the title of the session? What did you talk about, and what was the main theme of your breakout session?
So my title was Uprooting Lies and Planting Seeds of Truth.
Woo, woo. That'll preach.
It did, and it spoke. Part of my relapse was that I didn't have Jesus and I didn't have the healing of Jesus. I didn't have the truth of Scripture. So I was sitting on a bunch of lies, right, attached to some wounds that I had. And it was about God's character and my value. And so I unpacked some of those things and looked at, where did they come from and what types of behavior correspond with some underlying lies, right? Being very controlling, it's a safer feeling. When growing up, there wasn't a whole lot of safety. And so as an adult, creating my own safety and playing God in my own life and controlling outcomes was just one of the things that I did. And I recognized that that my insecurities and feeling less than came from my parents divorcing when I was a kid, and my father got custody of us and dropped us off in an orphanage, and my mom ended up getting us back, but that created some wounds of being unwanted and being unlovable and not worth fighting for. And so I was able to show how that's come up in my adult life, of that the enemy has been whispering those things in my ear for the longest time, that they felt like truth.
Yeah.
So to figure that stuff out and uproot it, take it out, and bring it before God and have healing for it so that it's no longer there.
Yeah. I'm tracking with you. I think some of the lies, I had a lot of fear along with some of the lies, but I had more fear about, and the fear was attached to you're not good enough and you'll not be good enough, or fear of failure, fear of success, all that fear. And I think one of the greatest things for me was when I experienced the tangible love of God, some of those fears went away. And I love that in the big book, in the 5th Step Promises, it says, our fears fall from us. Like, we didn't have to overcome them, we didn't have to face them, they just fall away.
Right.
And like the love of Jesus does that. Now there are things we have to face, but a lot of things, because of the love of Jesus, just falls away.
Right.
And I love that about that. And as you were describing, overcoming those lies and believing the truth that of Jesus and of God's love from the Creator is for you.
Right.
And that's a game changer. When I realized that God's love was for me, I had already done my 4th and 5th step and my 8th and 9th step before I had an encounter with Jesus. So like I had a clear picture of who I was, which wasn't awesome.
Right.
Now, it's funny because when I did my 5th step, I was going in, I thought I was a real snake. I found out I was more like a worm,
Right.
I still crawled on the ground. I wasn't as bad as I thought I was, but but I had a clear picture, a liar, a thief, a cheat. And then I did the amends that echoed that sentiment. And then I figured God loved you, and God was love, and that was great, and I didn't have any hard feelings. I just figured God didn't love me. And then when I discovered that God loved me as well, it changed everything.
Right.
And
I couldn't receive that love, though, until I unpacked the lies.
Okay.
Until it was able, and I've studied some soul healing from 3 different great teachers. And what I've learned is a couple of different things. Is that there's certain things that that we should get as children, and if they are not given, in the psychological piece, what it does to the psyche and your health as you grow up, and your mental health, is that there'll be pieces that feel like they're missing, and we try to fill those with all kinds of stuff, and so learning that there were some pieces missing that I was looking in all of the wrong places for was one of the things. And I also found out that I couldn't expect my husband to make up for all that stuff. I was setting him up for failure. The other piece was to empty out Rob Reimer calls it the emptying of the suitcase of our soul, to get it out and discard it so it can be replaced by something. I was trying to cover it up and cover it up and cover it up. And just like I had talked about in my talk about a dandelion will grow normally 6 to 8 inches, the root of it. But it can actually grow down to 10 feet. So if you pull it out and you don't get all the root, and even if you cover it with new soil and new grass and everything, it's going to pop back up. Same thing happens with a lie. It's going to come back up. And it might come out over this way or over that way a little bit, but it's going to still be a part of your life. And so what I was able to do was to do that deeper inventory. You know, the 5th step talks about, you know, it affected my ego, it affected my pride, and, you know, this goes a little bit deeper to the why. Why? And what it's also done is given me such a great compassion for myself. Instead of starting, you know, saying, what the heck is wrong with you? Why are you keep doing this stuff? It says, no wonder. I get to say, no wonder. And I let myself off the hook and I have some compassion. And then I can accept God's love and I can move on.
Yeah.
Way different.
Yeah, and that's beautiful, being able to experience that. I love the way you shared that. Any other pieces of your talk that were really impactful, either for you in sharing it or hoping that what people heard that impacted them?
So I shared one of the things that I didn't want to share that God put on my heart was that I needed to share my biggest lie. And the biggest lie was that God didn't love me. And God didn't love me because of the abuse that I endured as a child. And that, and then my mom had gotten remarried, and the man who was my wonderful hero ended up dying a year later. And then on a visitation with my biological father, he sexually abused me. And so my lie was, if God loved me, then those things wouldn't have happened. And so to unpack that for me and to recognize really it was about the enemy coming and stealing and killing and destroying my soul. It wasn't God who caused it.
Yeah.
It was God who redeemed it. And but that can still haunt me to this day. I was in a Bible study recently that had said that, well, if it happened to you, then God allowed it. And it was like a punch in the gut. It's like I can go back there like this, and then the battle is on. It's not a one and done thing. It's a continual battle that I fight for my peace, my serenity, and to stand in my truth.
Yeah.
So that was probably the hardest thing for me to share, to talk about. That was, well, I haven't arrived. Even though I've done this work, sometimes it still comes up.
Yeah. Observationally, I have no way of quantifying this, but I think that it is so common either having sexual abuse, sexual trauma. I would say 80% of people, again, I have no way of quantifying this, but just from my experience, that people in recovery, probably 80% have dealt with some sort of dysfunction, trauma, abuse, and that's really common, and it's not talked about. And you have to have the right venues to talk about it because it's not appropriate in all venues. But I think that that's one of those things that the section on, you know, the Now About Sex section in the big book was revelatory for me because we had never talked about that. Like, we didn't talk about sex, drugs, rock and roll. Like that you just, you know, my joke is, you know, we were taught that sex is dirty and wrong until you're married, and then you have permission to do what's dirty and wrong once you get married. But that, like never was it good, never was it.
Yeah.
And what the big book shares on that about it being God-given and like that God will be the judge and that God will give it, like, that God was even a part of that. I thought you closed the door and he stayed on the outside. Like, that was, you know.
Right.
But that God could be a part of every element of our lives, including intimacy and the ideal that God could have in that. And how often, if we've had a broken experience, especially initially, how that skews our view of what relationships are,
and what it should be,
and what intimacy is, and all those things. And so often, if it's happened when we were young, we had no emotional basket to catch it in, and so we're still playing catch up in a lot of ways with a lot of those things. But I thank you so much for sharing that and being so transparent. When you said, I forced myself to tell the biggest lie, I'm like, I guess she's going to do it again. So she's forcing herself twice in 24 hours to do it. So I thank you for sharing that and just being open to that.
Oh, thank you.
So we have a couple of things that we'll land the plane with. First off, I give everyone who comes in, they get a cross, and pick your cross. We're down to 2. We got one more speaker after you that I'll interview, and that is a special cross from the Bethlehem Bible College.
Okay.
And it is made out of olive wood from Israel.
Okay.
And so it's just, it feels, you can already tell, it just feels so nice.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, they call it cross in your pocket, but wherever you want to put it. But just to say thank you for being in the chair here. And then I like to close with a question. There are these questions called Not Just Sunday, and they're sort of small group questions. And I'll ask 1 fish or 2 fish?
2 fish.
2 fish, all right. I don't know what question. I've kind of randomly gotten a bunch of questions, so we'll see what this says. And this goes a little bit with a line along with what we were kind of if you could tell your younger self one truth about faith, what would it be?
Not to be afraid of it.
Yeah.
That it's meant to be safe, and that it's meant to grow you and to bring you to places that you could never imagine.
Beyond our wildest dreams.
Amen.
Well, I thank you so much. I thank you guys for tuning in to this episode. I thank you for my new friend, and we'll see you next time on Studio RC. Thanks again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And that's the episode for this week. But that's what isn't where it ends, because what was planted at Rooted is still growing. The real question isn't what did we hear, but the real question is what are we going to do about it and do with it? So take a moment, reflect on what stood out, hold on to what challenged you, and take one step, just one, toward living it out. This has been Rooted, the aftermath, where the moment may have passed, but the work is still ongoing. Stay rooted, keep growing, and we'll see you next time here at Studio RC. We encourage you to like, to share, to subscribe, help others find this encouragement for their recovery and their faith. This is Studio RC, an encouragement for your recovery and your faith. Remember, 12 steps, 1 goal. We'll see you next time.